Hey you guys, welcome back to another video by me, Lonnie's. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. But here is this long-awaited SakuAtsu week video. And I know SakuAtsu week is long finished, but I wanted to post this still, because I promised it. And yeah, I know it's a little different than, because my original plan was to post one video every day of the week, but that was a lot, and I was already late, so I just wanted to make it into one conjoined video. Yeah, I don't know. Make sure you comment down your favorite portion of the video. Here are all the prompts, by the way, that I chose. They're going to be highlighted. I tried to incorporate some of everything. Like, I tried to do the vampire, because I really wanted to do that one, and somebody commented about it, so I'm just like, okay, let me try to do something with it, but I listened to, the very end. But, enough yapping. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Bye.
Sakusa was standing with Coach Foster in the NSBY gym, arms crossed as he listened to the rundown of how practices usually went. The space was mostly empty at this hour, just the sound of balls being set on racks and shoes squeaking faintly somewhere deeper inside. Sakusa nodded along, eyes focused, doing his best to make a good impression. Then the doors clattered open. "You're late," Foster called before Sakusa even turned. Atsumu strolled in like he owned the place, grin wide, drink and cake pop in one hand, phone in the other. "Sorry, had to pick something up," he said, lifting the items like evidence. He trotted over to them, barely hiding a bounce in his step, and held the drink and cake pop out to Sakusa. The moment Sakusa registered they were meant for him, his expression faltered, lips tucking in, brows pinching in an embarrassed scrunch he tried to hide. Foster raised an eyebrow. "It's to welcome our newest member," Atsumu explained quickly, still grinning. "Figured he deserved a little something like a treat." Foster shook his head, laughing under his breath. "Then how about you tell him how things'll go around here, since you're in such a giving mood?" "Yes sir." Atsumu saluted exaggeratedly, making Sakusa gave him a light smack to the arm. "You're embarrassing me." "How?" Atsumu asked, genuinely confused. Sakusa leaned in a bit, voice low. "He's going to figure out we're dating or something and think you bribed me onto the team." Atsumu rolled his eyes like it was the most dramatic thing he'd heard all week. "Yeah, practically already on the team. Now it's just a matter of getting used to how we run things." He pressed the drink and cake pop stubbornly into Sakusa's hands. Sakusa sighed, accepting them. "Thanks." "Course." Atsumu brightened like he'd won something and casually slung an arm across Sakusa's shoulders. "Now let me finish what Foster was saying. You're gonna wanna actually listen to this part, comma." The next day, Atsumu walked in with another drink, another pastry, with the same grin. Sakusa stared at him flatly, trying to fight a smile. "Is this going to be an everyday occurrence?" Atsumu shrugged, which, coming from him, was basically a yes. By the end of the week, Atsumu had shown up with a matcha and another pastry. He handed them over like always. This time, before Sakusa could say anything, Bakuto popped up behind them. "So where's my breakfast?" Some. "Probably at a cafe somewhere," Atsumu shot back, blinking. Sakusa immediately handed Bakuto the matcha and pastry. "You can have it." "Thanks." Bakuto beamed and wandered off toward Hinata. Atsumu turned back to Sakusa, more offended than confused. "You didn't want it today?" "I don't wanna work out with too much junk in my system," Sakusa said simply, already heading toward warm-ups. After practice, Atsumu made a beeline for him, sweat-damp hair sticking to his forehead. "You coming back with me to my apartment?" "I don't know," Sakusa muttered, wiping his face with a towel. Atsumu pouted, full lips, big eyes, dramatic tilt of the head. "Please?" Sakusa pushed his face away with one hand. "Fine. Just, definitely don't make that face ever again." Atsumu lit up. "No promises." Later, at Atsumu's apartment, they sprawled on the couch watching someone break down match footage. At some point, Sakusa shifted and let his head drop into Atsumu's lap. Atsumu didn't miss a beat. His fingers slid into Sakusa's curls, brushing gently, almost automatically. A moment passed fast, quiet except for the analysis video. Omi, do you want me to stop bringing you food? Atsumu asked suddenly, voice softer. Sakusa blinked up at him. What do you mean? You just seem annoyed when I give it to ya. So just let me know if you want me to stop. Sakusa sat up, startling him a bit. I never said I didn't like it. Atsumu jolted back slightly. Oh, but every day is a bit excessive. Atsumu huffed a tiny laugh. Fair enough. And Sakusa continued, I don't want them finding out we're dating and thinking I only joined because of you. Atsumu nodded, then smirked. It is because of me though. Sakusa rolled his eyes and shoved his shoulder. Shut up. Atsumu laughed, leaning in against him, fingers finding his hair again. Sakusa had been staring at the same math problem for the past 20 minutes. His dorm room felt too small, too quiet, too different from the warmth of Atsumu's apartment in Osaka. He leaned his head on his desk, pencil tapping absent-mindedly against the notebook as the numbers taunted him. His brain refused to cooperate, maybe on purpose. Maybe because all he could think about was how much easier everything felt when Atsumu was around. He wanted to call him. He really wanted to call him. But the second he reached for his phone, he froze. They'd just spent an entire week together. Atsumu had a demanding training schedule, a whole life outside of Sakusa. He didn't need his boyfriend calling him like some clingy mess who couldn't get through one evening of homework. Sakusa dragged his hand back, inhaled deeply, exhaled even harder, and tried again. The math problem still made no sense. His chest tightened, not just from the work, but from the messy spiral of thoughts crowding him. He's probably tired of me. He needs space. Calling him randomly would be annoying. Before he could talk himself out of it for the 10th time, his fingers moved on their own. He opened his MacBook, clicked FaceTime, and suddenly Atsumu's contact was ringing on the screen. Atsumu picked up with a bright, "Hey, boo." But then his expression shifted. "What's wrong with you?" Sakusa rolled his eyes, which did nothing to hide the stress in them. "Nothing. Just doing work." Atsumu narrowed his eyes like he was trying to see through the pixels. "Should we call later then?" Sakusa shrugged. "If you want." "Why do you sound scared of me, Omi?" "I don't bite." Sakusa finally cracked a smile. "You do." Atsumu snorted, relaxing back into his chair. "Was only asking cause I wanted to yap, but not distract you." Sakusa set his iPad aside without hesitation. "Distract away." Atsumu lit up. "Well, let me tell you about the food I had today, okay, so boom." He launched into a whole story, gesturing wildly even through the screen. Sakusa listened at first, but then he drifted. His eyes fell back on his work, the stress creeping in again, the to-do list piling up in his head until Atsumu's voice became a distant hum. "Omi?" Sakusa blinked. "What?" "You zoned out." Atsumu said gently. "Sorry, what were you saying?" Atsumu's features softened, his smile turning warm instead of teasing. "All right baby, what's wrong?" Sakusa exhaled, shoulders sagging. "I just feel like I have so much to do, and I've been doubly stressed ever since I got back." Atsumu's bottom lip pushed out automatically. "I could have told coach you were busy." "No," Sakusa cut in, shaking his head. "It's not even that. My whole schedule, it's just all messed up." He leaned his head into his palm, staring at the chaos of notebooks and tabs. "I just want like one day to myself to plan and relax." Atsumu tilted his head. "Am I invited?" A tiny laugh escaped Sakusa, small, but real. "You always are, but you're busy." Atsumu looked off to the side, almost guilty. "Yeah, I know, comma." The next day, Sakusa trudged back from class, exhausted and mentally drained. He unlocked his dorm, ready to collapse into bed, but stopped dead when he saw someone lying under his blankets. Great. He was honestly too tired to deal with whatever was going on, but then the figure sat up. "Hey," Atsumu said casually, like him being here was the most normal thing in the world. Sakusa blinked, confused, relief hitting him so fast it almost knocked him over. He dropped his bag with a thud. Atsumu got off the bed and pulled him into a hug before Sakusa could ask anything else. Sakusa's arms automatically slid around Atsumu's neck, melting into the warmth he'd been missing so badly. Atsumu wrapped firmly around his waist, slightly picking him up. "What are you doing here?" Sakusa murmured into his shoulder. With that tone, "I'd think you didn't want me here." Atsumu laughed as Sakusa pulled back just enough to look at him. "More like I can't believe that you're." Sakusa stared in disbelief for a moment longer, asking for a second time. "Why did you come?" Atsumu grinned. "You called." That did something warm and painful to Sakusa's chest. He kissed him, quick, grateful, aching, and Atsumu kissed him back before pulling away to speak. "Now we can make lists, since I know you love those, and relax." Sakusa changed into sweatpants and a soft t-shirt. When he climbed onto the bed, Atsumu fell back with him, arms coming around him immediately like he belonged there. Sakusa tucked his face into Atsumu's neck, letting the tension bleed out of him. "I'm so in love with you," he murmured, the words slipping out before he could think too hard about them. Atsumu smiled against his hair and held him tighter, like he'd flown all the way there just to hear those exact words. Atsumu was sprawled across Osamu's couch, legs thrown over the armrest while Suna sat slouched next to him, the two of them deep into the haunting of Hill House. The apartment was dim except for the TV's glow, and the three of them were unusually quiet. Suna because he was invested, Osamu because he was eating, and Atsumu because, for once, something was sitting in his chest that he needed to get off. Right when the tension on screen reached a peak, Atsumu hit pause making Suna groan. "Play it, Dumbus. It was just getting good. I gotta tell you all something," Atsumu announced, sitting up dramatically. Osamu rolled his eyes and sighed. "Here he goes." Atsumu smacked Osamu's leg. "I'm dating somebody." Suna stared at him, deadpan. "You want a cookie? I'd love one." Atsumu replied instantly. Osamu didn't even blink. A slow, proud smile spread across Atsumu's face. "Sakusa." Both Osamu and Suna wrinkled their brows so hard it looked painful. "What?" Suna asked, leaning forward. Atsumu frowned back. "Yeah, what about it?" Osamu and Suna made eye contact, the silent communication type, the one Atsumu hated. "Stop doing that weird best friend telepathy shit and just say it," he snapped. "How does that even work?" Atsumu stared at him. "I want you to ask that again and hear how stupid you sound." "How is that stupid?" Osamu argued. "It works like any relationship work. But you two are the complete opposite," Osamu pointed out. "Not really, I don't mean personality-wise," Osamu interrupted, waving him off. "I mean you're an extremely touchy person and he's no." Atsumu blinked. "Where'd you get that from?" "I've seen how you act in relationships." "Okay, and?" Atsumu questioned. "And you're clingy." Osamu finished. "First off, I am not clingy," Atsumu said offended. "And second, he's not untouchy." Osamu looked at Suna for backup. Suna shrugged. "Seems pretty apparent to me." Atsumu laughed like they were idiots. "You guys don't even know him. He's like, the touchiest person I've ever dated." Suna slowly raised an eyebrow. "And you're sure you're dating Sakusa Koyumi?" Atsumu smacked him. "His hands don't even leave me when we're together." Osamu and Suna tilted their heads at the exact same angle, the exact same expression. "That's it," Atsumu said standing up. "I can't handle two of the same person." He stormed out ignoring their laughter, until his phone buzzed and it was a text from Osamu. "Bring him to my restaurant so we can meet." Atsumu rolled his eyes but he was already pressing call on Sakusa's contact. The next day, as they stood outside the restaurant, Sakusa shifted nervously beside him. "I'm nervous." Atsumu slung an arm over his shoulders without hesitation. "Don't be. Just act how you are with me." They walked in. "Sakusa!" Osamu yelled from behind the counter like he was announcing a giveaway. Sakusa startled visibly as Osamu marched around the counter and held both hands up. Sakusa froze, confused. Then he slowly high-fived him. "Good to meet you," Osamu said with a sly smile. "You too," Sakusa responded, smiling awkwardly. Atsumu scanned the room. "Where's Rin?" Osamu shrugged. "Probably in the back." Without warning, Atsumu hopped over the counter, grabbed Osamu's wrist, and dragged him toward the kitchen. "I'll be right back, Omi." Inside, they found Suna leaning against a table, scrolling through his phone. "Omi's here," Atsumu announced. Suna immediately brightened. "Oh, goody. I don't know what you're gonna try and pull out there, but dead it," Atsumu warned to both of them, making Suna held up his hands innocently. "I just wanna wanna meet Mr. Touchy Touchy," he strutted out. Osamu snickered. Atsumu whipped his head toward him. "This is funny to you?" Osamu's face flattened instantly. "No, not at all, sir." Atsumu smiled sarcastically, then stomped out. Back in the dining area, the twins found Suna and Sakusa already talking comfortably, even laughing a little. Atsumu walked up behind Sakusa and wrapped both arms around him, trapping Sakusa's arms against his chest. Sakusa immediately bent down and bit Atsumu's forearm. Atsumu yelped. "No, move." Atsumu's eyes widened. "What did Suna say to you?" Suna burst out laughing. "Why do you always assume I did something?" Atsumu ignored him, cupped Sakusa's jaw with one hand, and turned his face toward him dramatically. "Baby, what did I do?" Sakusa really tried not to grin, but it broke through, soft and uncontrollable. He wrapped his arms around Atsumu's neck and hugged him tight. Atsumu grinned, arms sliding around Sakusa's waist instantly. "That's what I thought." Across from them, Osamu and Suna wore the exact same raised eyebrow expression. The couple pulled apart and Suna tapped Sakusa lightly. "Quick question. Rank your love languages from most to least." Atsumu shook his head disappointedly. Suna smiled and gave him a finger heart. Sakusa blinked. "Receiving or giving?" Osamu chimed in. "Top 2 for both." Sakusa thought for a second. "For giving, physical touch and quality time. For receiving, acts of service and physical touch." Suna hummed. "Does Atsumu provide that for you?" "Shut up," Atsumu muttered, making Sakusa smile softly. "Yes." Satisfied, Suna nodded like he'd solved a puzzle. They ended up talking for a long while after that, joking, teasing, buzzing with that weird chaotic chemistry that somehow worked. When they finally stepped outside, Sakusa slipped his hand into Atsumu's. "I like them." Atsumu let out a long, dramatic sigh. "I don't." Sakusa laughed and Atsumu's tone softened. "Are you touchy with me because you want to be, or does it feel I pressured you?" Sakusa stopped walking and looked at him like the question itself didn't make sense. "You didn't pressure me. I love touching you." Atsumu's whole face lit up, that bright, uncontrollable grin he saved for special moments. "Good, 'cause I love your touch." Sakusa was on Facetime with Komori, talking about graduation being only 2 months away. Komori was listening, but Sakusa kept noticing his cousin glancing off to the left, expression shifting in a way that made Sakusa suspicious. Sure enough, Komori cut him off mid-sentence. "How do you feel about Atsumu?" Sakusa paused, eyebrows creasing. "Why are you asking me about Atsumu? I didn't think you'd be complaining." "I'm not complaining. I'm just asking why," Sakusa said, confused. Komori shrugged. "Because I wanna hear about your relationship." Sakusa tilted his head slightly. "You usually hate when I talk about Atsumu. What's changed all of a sudden?" "Well, you're usually only telling me about your fights. I wanna know how you actually feel about him." Sakusa hummed, still suspicious, but the corner of his mouth was already lifting. Komori groaned. "Don't smile like that. I love how he treats me like I'm the most important person ever," Sakusa admitted. "And I know it's not necessarily a good trait, but he threw away his principles for me." Komori blinked. "What do you mean?" "Osamu told me that in his past relationships, if his girlfriend told him to do something instead of asking, he'd ignore them until they asked politely." Komori nodded. "But with me, he does whatever I say whenever I want." Sakusa shrugged. Komori raised an eyebrow, a small laugh slipping out. "That's cute, Kyu. You're acting weird," Sakusa accused. Komori shook his head. "What else?" Sakusa sighed, thinking. "I love that dick." Komori gasped, hand flying to his chest. "I'm about to hang up." Sakusa burst into a quiet laugh. "I don't know what you want from me. You already know I'm obsessed with him." Komori nodded, clearly satisfied. "That's the answer I wanted. Why'd you ask in the first place?" Sakusa asked. But before Komori could respond, Atsumu suddenly appeared in the frame behind Sakusa. "You said you love what?" Sakusa froze, face scrunching in embarrassment. "Motoya, I'm going to kill you." Komori held up both hands defensively. "He gave me 200 yen though. And you're giving me all of it." Sakusa deadpanned as Komori groaned. Atsumu leaned into the camera, smirking. "I thought I told you not to fall in love with me." Sakusa didn't miss a beat. "I think we both know it's too late for that." Atsumu's grin was instant and blinding. He kissed the camera. "I love you too, bae." Komori recoiled. "You, don't kiss my camera." Sakusa ended the call before Atsumu could start more trouble. Atsumu and Sakusa were the first ones in the locker room. The lights were still half off, the gym hall quiet. Sakusa exhaled softly. I like how peaceful it is in the morning. That's why I come early, Atsumu said. It's the calm before the zoo opens. Sakusa smiled and sat on the bench. Are we gonna keep us a secret? I'd love to love you out loud. It's up to you, baby. Sakusa looked up at him from where he was seated. Will me and Foster be up our ass about it? Atsumu gave him a look that screamed, no duh. Sakusa let out a soft sigh. Let's just act like a couple. See what they say. Atsumu cackled. Alright, bae. Right then, the door flew open. Omi, Bakuto yelled, sprinting at him. He shoved Atsumu aside like a training cone and wrapped Sakusa in a rib-crushing hug. Sakusa stiffened, startled, then awkwardly hugged back. Hi, Bakuto. Thank you so much, Bo. Really appreciate that. Atsumu deadpanned. You're welcome, Bakuto said sarcastically, then turned back to Sakusa. Where are you staying right now? Are you gonna live in the share house? Sakusa nodded toward Atsumu wordlessly. Bakuto's eyebrows shot up. Really? Sakusa nodded again. But Atsumu hates people in his apartment. He's the exception, Atsumu said before Sakusa could answer. Wow, Bakuto muttered, walking to his locker. Sakusa and Atsumu met eyes, and immediately burst into silent laughter. By the end of practice, Hinata approached them with a big, nervous grin. Are you guys hunching? Atsumu made a face and paused midway through grabbing his bag, then slowly slung an arm around Sakusa. Why are you asking that? You two just have some kind of. Hinata waved his hands vaguely, searching in the air for the right word. Tension, Inunaki supplied. Hinata nodded quickly. Yeah, like, sexual tension. Atsumu laughed. You're tripping. Inunaki shrugged. Are we though? Bakuto told us he was staying with you, Hinata added. So what? He doesn't have anywhere else to stay. Sakusa snapped his bag shut and said sharply, hurry up. That was all it took. Atsumu immediately shouldered his bag, wrapped an arm around Sakusa, and walked out with a smirk while the others stared after them. That same night, as soon as they got into Atsumu's apartment, Sakusa dropped face first onto the couch with a muffled groan. You feel at home already? Atsumu asked, kicking his shoes off. Yeah, Sakusa yawned, stretching out long and slow like a spoiled cat. Atsumu paused in the doorway, staring. You're so cute. Sakusa cracked one eye open. Can you make me something? Atsumu leaned over him, palms caged on either side of Sakusa's head, dangling his face close. What do you want? Sakusa's lips tugged upward, nervously shrugging. Atsumu laughed, pushed off the couch, and disappeared down the hall. Alright, since you don't know, I need your help with cleaning my room. You had all day, Sakusa muttered, but got up and followed anyway. When he reached the doorway, he wrapped his arms around Atsumu's waist from behind, resting his chin on his shoulder. I can help, but it's not even that bad. Oh thanks babe, Atsumu said, relaxing into the embrace. They started picking up clothes, Sakusa tossing them deliberately at Atsumu's head. You should have done this before your guest came, Sakusa complained. I completely forgot it even looked like this. But then I remembered you were sleeping in here. Sakusa paused, holding a shirt. When's the last time you changed the sheets? Atsumu scoffed. I don't know. Sakusa smacked his arm so hard the clothes fell from his hands. They finished cleaning up spare clothes on the floor, now settling down at Atsuma's desk. Atsumu was sitting in his chair, Sakusa curled comfortably on his lap as they sorted through random junk. Sakusa picked up 2 unopened packs of flavored lip balms. Atsumu froze, neck turning red. The team kept saying my lips were chapped so I got insecure. Sakusa cackled, head falling back. Oh my gosh. Alright bro, Atsumu muttered, burying his face in Sakusa's shoulder. Sakusa snatched one tube and held it up. Marshmallow peppermint swirl? Are you serious? It's seasonal, Atsumu said, trying to grab it. Sakusa moved his hand away, opened it, and gently applied some to Atsumu's lips. How does it taste? Atsumu licked his lips. I can't get a good taste. You try. Sakusa lifted the chapstick, ready to apply it to himself, but Atsumu slapped it out of his hand. Sakusa blinked, about to ask why when the realization hit him, making his eyes widen. Oh my goodness, he whispered, then burst into loud laughter, cupping the back of Atsumu's neck as he doubled over. Atsumu laughed too. Stop, hurry up, it's gonna wear off. He leaned up and kissed Sakusa mid-laugh. Sakusa stilled, kissed him properly, then pulled back, breath warm against Atsumu's face. Atsumu chased his lips. Do you need a another test. Sakusa slapped his chest lightly. It's fine. Atsumu kept staring at him, then at his lips, completely in love. Sakusa slipped off his lap. Come on, let's change your sheets and go to bed. He stood by the bed waiting, arms crossed. Atsumu watched him with this soft, almost stupid smile before finally getting up to help. Atsumu climbed in behind Sakusa, and Sakusa jumped instantly. Why are you so cold? He hissed. I dunno. Atsumu chuckled, already wrapping his arms around Sakusa's middle. He pressed a scatter of kisses to the nape of Sakusa's neck, then he bit down. Sakusa screeched. You're like a vampire. Atsumu cackled. I'm not sleepy. Let's watch a show or something. Sakusa sighed defeatedly. Fine, let's watch The Vampire Diaries in honor of you. Atsumu threw his head back laughing. Okay, but when Elena starts talking, let's skip. They both dissolved into hysterical giggles for way too long. Finally, Atsumu rolled out of bed, grabbed his laptop, and put on a random season and a random episode. He slid back under the blankets, cold as ever, and Sakusa complained again but didn't move away. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, while the opening theme played softly in the background.